welcome back to YellowCard Vanguard. I'm your host, Toku, from It's Toku TV on Twitch. It has been a long while, and Clan Collection 5 and 6 have already been out for quite some time, but I figured this is going to be a mainstay of the channel, so I've taken some time out of my failing job search to give you, the viewers, what you want. My based, red-pilled, and Giga takes on the new cards and supports for Clan Collections 5 and 6. Once again, we need to preface the video as well as the rest of the series by letting you know that these lists are made at face value using my skills of card evaluation. They will need playtesting to fine-tune, but I hope they will serve as a good reference point for filthy net deckers to piggyback off of. Welcome back to Clan Collection Cores. Kicking off the series is my favorite clan, a Royal Paladin. And though I'm happy that the support is good and makes Jewel Knights a real and viable option, I'm still a bit chuffed that 1 year later, I'm still being punished for riding this. Personal biases aside, I'm pleased to say that the new cards for Jewel Knights are really good. I mean, after 3 sets of the Clan Collection and Selection support, I'd hope we'd finally get somewhere. There's a big difference in support quality when you get 3 archetypal support cards rather than 3 different boss units. Kagero and Nova, I'm looking at you. One of the main issues holding the Salome variant of the deck back from high tier was the lack of JK names to call for her restand, and the lack of JK names to cheat off of the Sybil callover. But with another grade 2 and another grade 1 added to the mix, that issue has been fixed and we got a potentially stronger finisher in Ashlei Reverse as well. Let's quickly run over the cards to refresh ourselves on what they do. Our new boss unit is Broken Heart Jewel Knight Ashlei Reverse. On the Vanguard circle, not once per turn, you can Soul Blast 2 and lock a rear guard to retire an opponent's front row and Superior Call from the top 4 cards of your deck, a Jewel Knight to rear, and bottom of the deck the rest. Also has the effect on attack if we have 2 or more locked cards, we can Counterblast 1 and Superior Call 2 grade 2 or lower Jewel Knights to rear circle, then for each of our locked cards, Ashlei Reverse gains 10k. And if we have 3 or more lock cards, also Sentinel Restrict. In a vacuum, Ashlei Reverse can burn through your soul for some +2 board, but also provide some removal, so that first skill is very good. And secondly, if we block 3 of our units, or if we had our Link Joker opponent friend lock some of our units for us, for the cost of Soul Blast 6, Ashlei Reverse will gain 30k and a Sentinel Restrict on her attack. Obviously, this pairs really well, break riding over Ashlei to gain the critical to try and close the game out when your opponent is at 3 or 4 damage. Our next card is Banding Jewel Knight Miranda. On the rear, when she attacks while unboosted, if our Vanguard is a Jewel Knight, we can Counterblast 1 to match Miranda's power to our Vanguard's power. And then the Jewel Knight gimmick, when another unit is placed on Miranda's circle, we can Soul Charge 1, and if we have no face-up damage, Countercharge 1. Now note, this is mandatory. Designed obviously with Ashlei Reverse in mind, the goal is to swing with a very large Ashlei Reverse and Superior Call Miranda out. Assuming we have at least our 2 lock cards, our Ashlei Reverse will be 33 to 43k depending on force placement, and Miranda would be able to copy that. Having an in-archetype source of resource management in both Soul and Countercharge is incredibly desired as well. It's just a shame that the card's first effect is very restricted towards Jewel Knights, so other decks cannot make the utmost use of this card as well. Finally, our last new card, Security Jewel Knight Arwain. An act skill on the rear circle, rest herself and bottom deck a normal unit from the drop zone to Soul Charge 1, and give our Jewel Knight Vanguard 5k for the turn. Then, the Jewel Knight gimmick is when another unit is placed on Arwain's circle, we check the top 2 cards of our deck, and add a Jewel Knight from among them to the hand and bottom deck the other. Once again, Ashlei Reverse was kept in mind when making Arwain. You can rest her for the Soul Charge and power buff before locking her with Ashlei Reverse. But my favorite part of this card is the fact that now Jewel Knights have 3 really good grade 1 targets to ride. Before we get into the list, let's talk about the deck philosophy. With all the new cards, we can re-evaluate Salome as a strategy again, but we'd be comparing Salome versus Ashlei Reverse. Where Ashlei Reverse is very good at closing games with its guard restrict, Salome is a restanding Vanguard. We now have more units to call from hand, and more units to call over as well. For the time being, I think that Ashlei Reverse is the better strategy, since the difference between riding Ashlei Reverse and Ashlei as your first grade 3 ride isn't too different. You're still able to get some plus regardless, whereas riding Salome as your grade 3 ride makes your turn vanilla. So with that philosophy out of the way, let's talk about the flow of the game. We look to ride base Ashlei first and to start aggressing our opponent to try and push them to that lethal range where Ashlei Reverse with the guard restrict and the crit from the Ashlei break ride will be able to close out the game. To do that, we will need a lot of soul. We're asking for 6 soul blasts in one turn. Luckily for us, all of the Jewel Knights provide soul to use, so we will play on the archetype to its maximum. Very uninteresting deck choices here. Our grade 3 lineup consists of our new boss unit, Ashlei Reverse, and her pre-corrupted self at full playsets. As stated before, we look to ride Ashlei and break right into Ashlei Reverse for the desired crit guard restrict. In our grade 2 lineup, we're going for the fully uninspired build of 4 of all the grade 2 Jewel Knights. For our fundamental turn play, we need a lot of soul, and the best way to get soul would be the Jewel Knight engine. 4 Sybil, 4 Rail, and 4 of the new Miranda. Then our grade 1 lineup, we have 13 slots here. 12 of them are reserved for playsets of the Jewel Knight and a singleton copy of Sisyphus. As good as the Jewel Knights are for drawing cards, Sisyphus is the only card here that can actually help tutor Ashlei and her reverse counterpart to hand. Treat him as the missing piece that you need to be sculpting for. As for our trigger lineup, it's going to be the vanilla 8 crits, 4 draw, sentinels, as well as 4 Helions. I wish there was more I could say about the card choices besides these cards build soul, and these are also Jewel Knight names or our effects. So I can at least offer you this tidbit of knowledge. If you can get perfect rides, you want to ride Morbidus for your grade 1. This way, you can leave Eunice as your early game soul charge and hand engine, and Alwains as your costless soul charge and best lock target. For your grade 2 options, you want to ride into Sybil, not for her overplacement skill, but for her effect to get some free soul on attack without expanding an extra card from hand to attack with. Your main attacks should be with Rail and Miranda. As for force markers, assuming you get your 2 from riding Ashlei and then reverse, you want 1 on the rear circle first, and 1 on the Vanguard circle after. Reason being is that you want your force on the rear circle to get some rearguard pressure in the early game, and once you go into Ashlei Reverse, Miranda will just copy whatever power Ashlei Reverse has, so the circle she is called to doesn't need a force marker, but whatever else you call will want it. As for other options to run in the deck, you can really only look at that singleton of the Sisyphus slot here. I would say running options like Die-Connect Dragon or Pongal as an emergency soul charge to reach that Soul Blast 6 would help, or if you want to ensure that Alwain has the most hit targets as possible, it could be the one of Salome, since she has the overcall effect where Ashlei Reverse doesn't, making Salome technically a better rearguard. I think for the most part, the changes could be in the trigger lineup. As stated before, because we're looking to completely blow out our opponent with the crit 2 guard restrict, we could opt into running critical sentinels to increase our crit count and make finding that extra critical easier. I also think this deck could consider running vanilla heals over the Heal Guardian, not only for the extra 5k shields, but the fact that it doesn't mind soaking damage because it uses counterblasted fairly well, as well as for the fact that you would rather G-assist into either Ashlei than to be forced to stall a turn on grade 2 or ride the Heal Guardian. Something new both Ben and I wanted to do for this run of Clan Collection cores was to actually mention premium applications if there are any. With regards to Jewel Knights, Jewel Knight in Premium is primarily Salome and Crystal Luster as a primary strategy. And what Clan Collection 5 gives us is 2 more Jewel Knight rearguards in our deck. So we have A, more Jewel Knights to take us damage for Sword Me's E special counterblast, and B, more Jewel Knights to call for Salome's skill, C, more Jewel Knights to have for Christine's condition, and D, Miranda especially providing an in-archetype source of countercharge since Salome costing 2, Sword Maid costing 1, Christine costing 1, having an in-archetype source of countercharge is very helpful. And finally, because of how Christine can help hard tutor for certain grade 3s, we can also opt for a single copy of Ashlei Reverse, as she will be a better grade 3 ride going first than Salome would be. In conclusion, I'm glad the time for Royal Paladin to shine in the meta might be now after a small overhaul of the restriction list since there are still some outliers. I would also hope that after 3 whole sets of full support, it would become a viable option or at least a solid one that someone wouldn't feel bad to play. I appreciate that the new cards keep a lot of the Jewel Knight flavor with the overcalls, but also play well into Ashlei Reverse too. In any case, that's it from me for this episode of Clan Collection Cores. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this and leave a comment down below because every little bit helps. This has been Toku from YellowCard Vanguard. Toku out.